A black man on a $68 million jet? Please, you probably clean the seats for a living. Her laughter rang out, loud and cruel, cutting through the cabin air like a blade. Hey, hey, I have served actual billionaires. They do not look like you. Her palm cracked across his cheek before he could even respond. The sound echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. He did not move. He did not flinch. His espresso did not even tremble in his hand. Now, Elias Thornton, with the quietest eyes she had ever seen, said almost in a whisper, "You done? Done?" She smirked. "Get off this plane before I call the cops." He took a slow sip of his espresso. He did not say a word. He did not have to. In moments, she would understand everything. Man, she really had no idea who she was talking to. Let us see how this plays out. But before we get to those moments, let me take you back to the beginning. Because this story does not start with a slap. It starts with a man who had absolutely nothing to prove to anyone. That afternoon at Teterboro Airport, the private side, the side with marble floors, leather couches, and espresso machines that cost more than most people's cars. This is where billionaires come and go like ghosts. No lines, no TSA. No one asks you to take off your shoes. You just walk straight onto your plane. And that is exactly what Elias Thornton planned to do. His black SUV pulled up to the terminal. No motorcade, no entourage. Just Elias in the driver's seat, and his chief of operations, Marcus Riley, riding shotgun. Elias stepped out wearing a black hoodie, dark jeans, and plain white sneakers. No Rolex, no gold chain, no designer logo screaming for attention. If you passed him on the street, you would never guess this man was worth billions of dollars. And that was the whole point. Elias had stopped dressing for other people's expectations a long time ago. He did not need a three-piece suit to close a deal. He did not need a flashy watch to prove his bank account. He had built Pinnacle Aero Holdings from a single leased cargo plane into a private aviation empire that spanned 6 countries. The planes spoke for themselves. He walked into the lounge, and the woman behind the front desk smiled wide. "Mr. Thornton, good to see you again." He called her by her first name, asked about her daughter's soccer tournament, left a folded $100 bill on the counter like it was nothing. Because to him, kindness was never nothing. The ground crew waved from the tarmac. One of them jogged over to shake his hand. "Your bird is all fueled up, sir. Looking beautiful today." Elias grinned. She always does. His phone buzzed. A call from his CFO about an $800 million acquisition of a regional airline. Elias talked while walking, his voice low and steady. No dramatics, no shouting, just clean, surgical decision-making. "Lock the term sheet. We closed Tuesday." That was it. 4 words. $800 million. Marcus shook his head, smiling. "You know, one day you could actually dress like you own a jet." Elias laughed, a real, warm laugh. "If I have to dress a certain way for people to respect me, those are not people I need respect from. Remember that line. It is going to matter." Now, here is where the trouble starts. Elias's regular cabin crew, 2 flight attendants who had been with him for years, called in sick that morning. Bad shrimp from a team lunch. Both of them down. No backup on short notice. So Pinnacle's operations team scrambled and contracted a replacement crew from Horizon Charter Services, a last-minute fill. A company Elias had used before for overflow staffing, but never on his personal aircraft. Horizon sent 2 attendants. One of them was Vanessa Caldwell. Vanessa was 32, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, pressed uniform, polished shoes. She arrived at the lounge with her colleague early, which normally would be a good sign. But the cracks showed fast. She snapped at a ground crew member for placing a catering cart too far to the left. She sighed loudly when her colleague asked a simple question about the galley layout. And when a black baggage handler approached to confirm luggage details, she did not even look at him. Just waved her hand like she was shooing away a fly. Small moments, easy to miss if you were not paying attention, but they painted a very clear picture. She stepped onto the Gulf Stream and froze for half a second. The interior was stunning. Hand-stitched leather, African art on the cabin walls, a framed photograph of Elias with civil rights leaders and community organizers. She looked at the photo. Her nose wrinkled just slightly, just enough. She had been told the client would board soon. No name, no photo, no briefing on who he was, just the client. In her mind, she already had an image of who owned this plane. And that image did not look anything like the man in the black hoodie who was about to walk up those stairs. Elias climbed the air stairs with the casual ease of a man walking into his own living room, because that is exactly what this was. His plane, his space, his rules. He ducked slightly through the cabin door. 6'2", broad shoulders. The hoodie made him look even bigger. His worn leather messenger bag hung from one shoulder. He smelled like cedar cologne and fresh autumn air. Vanessa was in the galley, arranging glasses on a polished silver tray. She heard footsteps and turned around, and then she saw him. A black man, hoodie, jeans, sneakers, standing in the doorway of a $68 million aircraft. Her whole body changed. Her shoulders pulled back, her chin lifted. Her eyes narrowed into two thin, suspicious lines. The warm, professional smile she had been rehearsing in the mirror that morning vanished completely. She stepped into the aisle, blocking his path. No greeting, no welcome, no good afternoon, sir. Nothing. Excuse me. Her voice was flat. Can I help you? Are you with the ground crew? Elias had heard this question before, more times than he could count. At hotel lobbies, at car dealerships, at restaurants where he had a standing reservation. It always sounded the same. Polite on the surface, poison underneath. He kept his face neutral. No, I am the passenger. He moved forward. She did not move. I am going to need to see some identification. She planted her feet wider. We cannot just have anyone walking onto this aircraft. Anyone. That word hung in the recycled cabin air like smoke. Moments earlier, a white catering delivery driver had walked onto this same plane carrying trays of food. Vanessa had not asked him for so much as a name. He walked right in, set down the trays, and walked right out. No questions, no ID, no suspicion, nothing. But the black man in the hoodie? He was anyone. Elias did not argue. He pulled out his phone and showed her the boarding manifest, his name, the tail number, the departure time, the destination. Everything matched. Everything was right there in black and white. Vanessa glanced at it for less than 2 seconds. Anyone could have that screenshot. She waved the phone away with the back of her hand. I need a government-issued ID, a real one. Her tone had shifted. It was not just suspicion anymore. It was an accusation. She was looking at him the way a store detective looks at a shoplifter. Like guilt was already decided, and paperwork was just a formality. Elias reached into his messenger bag, pulled out his wallet, handed her his New Jersey driver's license. Photo, full name, address in Alpine, one of the wealthiest zip codes in America. Vanessa held the ID up, studied it, looked at the photo, looked at Elias, looked at the photo again, looked at the cabin interior, looked back at Elias. Her brain was fighting itself. The name matched. The face matched. The address was Alpine, for God's sake. But something in her refused to accept it. Something deep and ugly that she had carried her whole life told her that this man could not possibly belong here. She held the ID for an uncomfortably long time. 15 seconds. 20s. Elias stood there, patient, his hand still extended. Finally, Marcus leaned forward from his seat. Everything all right up there? Vanessa ignored him. She turned away from Elias without returning his ID and pulled out her phone. She called Horizon Dispatch, and she did not even try to lower her voice. Yeah, hi. This is Vanessa on the Taterboro assignment. There is a gentleman here claiming to be the client. She paused. Something does not feel right. I just want to make sure we are safe. Safe. That word hit Elias in the chest like a fist. He did not show it, but he felt it. That word, safe, was a weapon disguised as a whisper. It meant dangerous. It meant threat. It meant this black man scares me simply by existing in this space. Marcus's jaw tightened. He set down his water glass slowly. His eyes locked onto Vanessa with a look that could have melted steel. The dispatcher on the other end of the line confirmed everything. Elias Thornton, owner-passenger, Pinnacle Aero Holdings. Confirmed. No ambiguity. No question. None. Vanessa hung up. She stood there for a moment, phone still in her hand. Did she apologize? No. Did she say, "I am sorry for the misunderstanding, sir"? No. Did she smile? Offer a handshake? Anything even remotely resembling basic human decency? No. She just shrugged, handed back his ID without looking at him, and said in the flattest, most disrespectful tone imaginable, "All right, you can sit down." Not, "Please have a seat, Mr. Thornton." Not, "Welcome aboard, sir." Just, "You can sit down." Like she was doing him a favor, like she was granting permission for a man to sit on his own plane. Elias took his ID back, said nothing, walked to his seat, sat down. Marcus leaned over and whispered, "You okay?" Elias gave a small nod. His face was stone, but behind his eyes, a clock had started ticking. Vanessa began the pre-flight service, and this is where the abuse shifted from obvious to surgical. She poured Marcus a glass of water without being asked, set it down gently on a linen napkin, even gave him a small, tight-lipped smile. Then, she walked right past Elias, like his seat was empty, like he was invisible. Elias waited a moment. Then he said calmly, "Could I get a sparkling water, please?" Vanessa sighed. Not a quiet sigh, a loud, theatrical, full-body sigh that said everything her words did not. "We will get to it." She never got to it. Next, she picked up Elias's leather messenger bag, a bag that had been with him for years, soft and worn with memory, and tossed it into the overhead bin. Not placed, not set down, tossed, like it was a garbage bag. Elias watched it hit the inside of the bin with a dull thud. He said nothing. Then Vanessa adjusted the cabin thermostat, dropped it low without asking. The cabin turned cold within moments. Elias felt the chill settle across his arms. Still, he said nothing. Each act was small. Each one was deniable. "Oh, I forgot your water." "Oh, I did not realize the bag was yours." "Oh, I thought everyone preferred it cool." But stacked together, the pattern was undeniable. This was not neglect. It was a theater. Every cold shoulder, every dismissive sigh, every rolled eye was a performance. And the audience was Elias. She wanted him to feel it. She wanted him to know he did not belong. Then came the line that broke the dam. Elias asked about meal service, a simple, reasonable question from a passenger on his own aircraft. Vanessa turned, looked at him, and delivered the words with the full weight of every assumption she had been carrying since the moment she saw his face. "Sir, I do not know who let you on this plane, but this aircraft is reserved for the owner. You need to leave now." Even after the ID check, even after dispatch confirmed his identity, even after seeing his name on the manifest, she had decided, with absolute, unshakable conviction, that a black man in a hoodie could not own this plane. Elias locked eyes with her. The cabin was silent. The air was still. You could hear the faint hum of the auxiliary power unit outside. He spoke calmly, quietly, like a man who had said these words 1,000 times before, and was tired of how familiar they felt. "I am the owner." Vanessa scoffed, not a polite scoff, a full, head-tilted, lip-curled, contemptuous scoff. The kind of scoff that said, "I do not believe you. I will never believe you, and nothing you say will change that." "Right." She crossed her arms. "And I suppose you built the whole airline too?" "I did." The simplicity of his answer shook her more than any argument could have. She expected defensiveness. She expected anger. She expected him to pull up bank statements or shout his net worth at her. That is what she wanted. A reaction she could twist into justification. But Elias gave her nothing. Just 2 words, spoken like facts, spoken like gravity. It infuriated her. Vanessa spun on her heel and marched toward the cabin door. She leaned out into the afternoon light and scanned the tarmac. An airport police vehicle was idling near the fuel station, yards away. She raised her hand and waved it down. Officer Kevin Walsh rolled up in his white SUV, window down, sunglasses pushed up on his forehead. He looked relaxed. End of a quiet shift. "What is the problem, ma'am?" Vanessa leaned into the window. Her voice dropped into that particular register, the one designed to sound frightened, helpless, urgent. The voice of a woman who knows exactly how to weaponize her fear. "Officer, there is an unauthorized individual on this aircraft. He is refusing to leave. He is getting aggressive." Aggressive. Elias Thornton had not raised his voice once, had not stood up, had not pointed a finger, made a fist, or taken a single step toward her. He was sitting in a leather seat with his hands on his knees and his espresso cooling on the side table. But the word, aggressive, did exactly what Vanessa needed it to do. Walsh unclipped his seatbelt. His hand moved instinctively to his belt, not quite to his weapon, but close enough. He climbed out of the SUV and followed Vanessa up the air stairs. The cabin felt smaller with Walsh inside it. He was a big man, thick neck, the kind of officer who had spent years in law enforcement and had heard every story twice. His boots were heavy on the carpet. He looked at Elias, looked at Vanessa, back at Elias. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside for a moment." Elias did not move. His voice was level, measured, almost gentle. "Officer, my name is Elias Thornton. I own this aircraft. You are welcome to verify that with the FAA registry, the lounge front desk, or the tail number on the fuselage right outside that window." He pointed toward the oval window. Through it, clear as day, the Pinnacle Aero Holdings logo gleamed on the fuselage in midnight blue and silver. The tail number was right there, 5 characters that could end this entire scene in moments. Walsh hesitated. His eyes moved to the window. He saw the logo. He saw the tail number. Something in his gut told him to pause, to check, to ask one more question before this went any further. But Vanessa was right behind him, whispering, feeding the fire. "Officer, he has been confrontational since the moment he boarded. I have already called dispatch, and they could not confirm anything. I do not feel safe." That was a lie. Dispatch had confirmed everything, but Vanessa had rewritten the story in her own mind, and now she was rewriting it for Walsh. Walsh turned back to Elias. "Sir, I understand, but I need you to stand up for me, just to sort this out." He moved toward Elias. His posture shifted, wider stance, hands slightly forward, the universal body language of a pat-down about to happen. Elias looked at the officer's hands. He understood what was coming. A black man on a private jet, about to be frisked on his own property because a white woman said the word aggressive. He had seen this movie before, 100 times, 1,000 times, on the news, in his own life. The script never changed. That is when Marcus stood up. He rose from his seat slowly, deliberately. His 6-foot frame straightened to its full height. His voice came out clear and sharp, like a blade leaving a sheath. "Officer, my name is Marcus Riley. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Pinnacle Aero Holdings, the company that owns this aircraft. The man you're about to put your hands on is Elias Thornton, the founder, the CEO, and the sole owner of this $68 million plane." He paused. Let it sink in. "Now, before you take one more step, I need you to understand something." Marcus pointed to the ceiling. 3 small black domes, cabin security cameras, positioned at the front, middle, and rear of the aircraft. red lights glowing steady. Every single second since we boarded this aircraft has been recorded, audio and video, 3 angles, cloud synced in real time to our corporate servers. So, whatever happens next, officer, I want you to know the whole world is going to see it. The cabin went dead silent. Walsh froze. His hands dropped to his sides like they had been burned. He stared at the cameras, then at Marcus, then at Elias. The red lights blinked back at him, patient, unblinking, unforgiving. Vanessa's face changed. Not much, but enough. The cameras were a variable she had not considered. She had built her whole performance on the assumption that it was her word against his, her credibility against his, her tears against his truth. But cameras do not care about tears. Cameras just record. For long seconds, no one moved. The only sound was the low hum of the plane's auxiliary power unit and the distant whine of a jet taxiing somewhere on the runway. Then, Vanessa did something that would cost her everything. Maybe it was panic. Maybe it was rage. Maybe it was years of unchecked hatred finally boiling over with nowhere left to hide. Whatever it was, it took control of her body before her brain could stop it. She turned to Elias. Her face was red. Her jaw was tight. Her voice came out low and venomous, shaking with a fury she no longer tried to disguise. You people always have some story, do not you? She stepped closer. You probably stole the money to buy this thing, or sold drugs, or scammed someone. The words filled the cabin like poison gas. Marcus took a step forward. Walsh put his hand up. Elias did not move. He simply stood. Not aggressively, not quickly. He just rose from his seat to his full height, 6'2", and looked down at her with an expression that carried years of this. Years of being doubted, questioned, frisked, followed, denied. We are done here. Get off my plane. And Vanessa slapped him, open palm, full force across his left cheek. The crack echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. Walsh flinched. Marcus lunged forward but stopped himself. The espresso cup rattled on the side table. Elias's head turned slightly with the impact. A red mark bloomed across his dark skin, warm, stinging, familiar in a way it should never be. He did not touch his face, did not raise his hand, did not step back. He looked at her. Then he looked up, slowly, deliberately, at the security camera directly above her head. Its red light pulsed like a heartbeat. Then he looked back at her, and he smiled. Not a warm smile, not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that says, I know something you do not. The kind of smile that makes your blood run cold. He did not say a word. He did not have to. In moments, she would understand everything. Nah, hold on. She really just slapped this man on his plane? After seeing his ID? Like what? I am not going to lie, that is actually crazy. And he just stood there, smiling? Nah. Yeah, whatever happens next, that is on her. Elias sat back down, slowly, calmly, like a man who had all the time in the world. Vanessa stood there, breathing hard, her palms still tingling from the slap. She expected him to shout, to lunge, to give her the reaction she needed to justify everything she had done. Instead, he picked up his phone. And that is when her world started to end. First call, his personal attorney. Elias spoke like he was ordering room service. No emotion, no urgency, just facts. Andrew, it is Elias. I need you to pull up the live feed from my aircraft, cabin camera 3. You will see an assault that occurred moments ago. Yes, on me. I want charges filed within the hour. Battery, false police report, whatever else applies. He paused, listened. Thank you. I will hold the footage on my end as well. He hung up. Vanessa watched him. Her smirk was still there, but it had frozen, like a mask that no longer fit her face. Second call. Pinnacle Aero's head of vendor relations. James, pull every active contract we hold with Horizon Charter Services. All of them. Every subsidiary. Every division. I want termination letters drafted and sent before close of business today. The voice on the other end asked a question. Elias answered without hesitation. All of them. Effective immediately. No exceptions. He hung up again. Vanessa's smirk was gone now. The word horizon had landed like a rock through a window. That was her company. Her employer. The name on her paycheck. Her lips parted slightly. No words came out. Third call. This one, Elias made while looking directly at Vanessa. He did not break eye contact, not once. Lauren. It is Elias Thornton. On the other end, Lauren Mitchell, Senior Vice President of Horizon Charter Services, answered immediately. Elias was a major client. When he called, you picked up before the second ring. Lauren. I am currently sitting on my aircraft at Teterboro. One of your crew members has spent the last while racially profiling me, questioning my right to be on my own plane, filing a false police report claiming I was aggressive, and moments ago, physically striking me across the face. Silence on the other end. Elias let it breathe. The entire incident has been captured on 3 cabin security cameras, audio and video. My legal team is reviewing the footage as we speak. I am going to need a callback within moments, Lauren. If I do not get one, our entire relationship is over. All of it. He hung up. Set the phone down on the armrest, folded his hands, and waited. The cabin was so quiet, you could hear Vanessa's breathing. Fast. Shallow. The kind of breathing that happens when your body realizes the danger before your brain does. Officer Walsh had been standing near the cabin door the entire time, silent, watching. His hand had long since dropped away from his belt. He was not looking at Elias anymore. He was looking at his own phone. He had typed the tail number into the FAA registry. The result came back in seconds. Aircraft registered to Pinnacle Aero Holdings, LLC. He searched for the company name. Elias Thornton, founder and CEO. Forbes list. Billions net worth. Presidential Medal of Freedom nominee. Photos of him with senators, governors, and Fortune 500 executives. Walsh looked up from his phone. His face had gone pale. The color had drained out of it like water from a cracked glass. He turned to Vanessa. His voice was different now, quieter, heavier. Ma'am, I am going to need you to step off this aircraft. Vanessa's head snapped toward him. What? He is the one who, ma'am. Walsh cut her off. His tone left no room for negotiation. The aircraft owner has asked you to leave. You are now trespassing on private property, and based on what I just witnessed, you are potentially facing assault charges. Step off the plane, now. Vanessa's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. She looked at Elias. She looked at Walsh. She looked at Marcus, who was sitting with his arms crossed, and an expression that said, I told you so, without a single word. She looked at the cameras. All 3 red lights. Still blinking. Still recording. Still watching. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A text from her supervisor at Horizon. Call me immediately. Do not speak to the client. Then, another buzz. An email from Horizon Human Resources. Subject line, immediate suspension pending investigation. Then, another buzz. Another email. Same sender. Different subject line. Termination of employment effective immediately. 3 buzzes. Seconds. Career over. Vanessa stared at her phone screen. Her hand was trembling so hard, the words blurred. Her legs felt hollow. The polished confidence she had worn like armor all afternoon had crumbled into dust. She looked at Elias one last time. He was sitting exactly where he had been since the beginning. Same seat, same posture, same quiet, devastating calm. His espresso was still on the side table. The red mark on his cheek was still visible. He did not look at her. He did not need to. She walked off the plane on legs that barely held her. Each step down the airstairs felt like falling. The afternoon light hit her face. but it did not feel warm anymore. Moments from slap to jobless. He told her. She just did not listen. Vanessa's heels hit the tarmac, and her knees almost buckled. The afternoon sun was still golden. The air still smelled like jet fuel and autumn leaves. Everything outside the plane looked exactly the same as it had moments ago. But Vanessa Caldwell's entire world had been rearranged. She stood at the bottom of the air stairs, clutching her phone with both hands, staring at the termination email like the words might rearrange themselves if she looked long enough. They did not. Officer Walsh followed her down. His boots were heavy on each step. His face was set in the grim expression of a man who had just realized he had been played and had almost made the worst mistake of his career. He stopped in front of Vanessa, pulled out his notepad. His voice was flat and official. "Ma'am, based on what I directly witnessed inside that aircraft, I am placing you under arrest for simple assault and filing a false police report." Vanessa's head jerked up. "Arrest? No, 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 no. You do not understand. He provoked me. He was intimidating. I felt threatened. I was just doing my job." Walsh did not blink. "Ma'am, I watched the entire interaction. He was seated. His hands were visible. He never raised his voice. You struck him. It was a mistake. I did not mean to. It just happened. Turn around, please. Hands behind your back." The click of the handcuffs was small and metallic. But on that quiet tarmac, surrounded by nothing but private jets and silence, it sounded enormous. Two ground crew members stood near a fuel truck watching. They had seen the whole thing unfold through the aircraft windows. One of them shook his head slowly. The other pulled out his phone and started recording. Vanessa was walked across the tarmac toward Walsh's patrol vehicle. Her pressed uniform was wrinkled now. Her blonde bun was coming loose. Strands of hair stuck to her face where tears had started to fall. She was crying. Hard. Ugly. The kind of crying that bends your whole body. "Please, please, I cannot. I have bills. I have rent. I just lost my job. You cannot do this. It was a misunderstanding." Walsh opened the rear door of his SUV. "You should have thought about that before you put your hands on someone." He guided her into the back seat. The door closed with a heavy thud. Through the tinted window, Vanessa's face was barely visible. Just the shape of a woman bent forward, shoulders shaking. Back on the plane, the cabin was still. Elias sat in his seat. The red mark on his cheek had deepened into a bruise. He pressed a cold water bottle against it, not because it hurt that much, but because it gave his hands something to do. Marcus sat across from him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The engines hummed softly. The cameras blinked their steady red. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "You okay?" Elias was quiet. He stared out the oval window at the tarmac, at the patrol vehicle pulling away with Vanessa in the back, at the ground crew returning to their routine like the world had not just cracked open inside that cabin. "I am tired, Marcus." His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Not of her. I am tired of the fact that this keeps happening." Marcus nodded. He did not say anything else. Some truths do not need a response. They just need a witness. Elias pulled out his phone and called his wife. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, something happened on the plane today. I am fine. I will tell you everything when I get home." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Was it bad?" "Yeah." Another pause. "Come home safe, Elias." 3 words, but they carried the weight of every time he had walked out the door, and she had wondered if the world would treat him like a man or like a threat. Come home safe. Moments later, Lauren Mitchell pulled into Teterboro in a black sedan. She had driven from Horizon's headquarters at high speed. Her face was the color of chalk. She asked to see Elias. Elias refused. Marcus met her on the tarmac instead. He handed her a single envelope. Inside was a formal letter on the Pinnacle Aero letterhead. Termination of all contracts between Pinnacle Aero Holdings and Horizon Charter Services, effective immediately. Total annual value, millions across subsidiaries. Lauren read it twice. Her hands shook. She looked up at Marcus. Is there anything at all we can do to know? Marcus turned and walked back up the air stairs. The cabin door closed behind him. Lauren stood alone on the tarmac, holding a letter worth millions in losses, and realized that one employee's hatred had just set her company on fire. The footage hit the internet the next morning. Elias's legal team released the cabin video after Vanessa's attorney went on a local news segment and told the anchor, with a straight face, that Elias had been combative and physically threatening during the encounter. That was a mistake. A catastrophic, irreversible, career-ending mistake. Because the video showed everything. All three angles, crystal clear, full audio, minutes of uncut, unedited truth. The ID check, the scoff, the dispatch call, the microaggressions, the water she never brought, the bag she tossed, the word unauthorized, the word aggressive, the phrase, you people, and then the slap, that sharp, unmistakable crack of an open palm against a man's face, followed by the quietest four words the internet had ever heard. You done? TV journalist Rachel Thornton broke the story on the national evening news. She played the footage with minimal commentary. She did not need much. The video spoke for itself. Within hours, it had millions of views. Before long, it was everywhere. Every news desk, every talk show, every group chat, every social media feed in the country. The hashtags wrote themselves. 8 minutes. Elias Thornton. Justice served. Vanessa Caldwell. People were furious. Not the quiet, scrolling past kind of furious. The kind that calls congresspeople. The kind that cancels subscriptions. The kind that shows up. And the first place they showed up was Horizon's front door. Within a week of the footage going public, multiple of Horizon's top-tier clients pulled their contracts. Then more. Then a cascade. Private jet owners, corporate accounts, charter brokers who did not want their names anywhere near the scandal. Total losses mounted fast. But the money was only the beginning. An internal investigation at Horizon, launched under pressure from their own board of directors, uncovered something worse. Vanessa Caldwell had prior complaints from clients of color, all documented, all buried by middle management. One client had written a detailed letter describing how Vanessa had refused to serve him and called security when he asked for a blanket. That letter sat in a filing cabinet for years. No one acted on it. When Rachel Thornton reported this on her follow-up segment, the second scandal exploded. It was not just about Vanessa anymore. It was about the system that protected her. Lauren Mitchell was forced to resign within the month. The CEO of Horizon issued a public apology. A carefully worded, PR-approved statement about deeply held values and zero tolerance. The internet did not buy it for a second. Horizon announced mandatory bias training for all employees, an independent review board, a victim compensation fund, crisis consultants, diversity hires. Too little, too late. The court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict, but the legal courts were just getting started. The district attorney's office charged Vanessa Caldwell with assault and filing a false police report, both misdemeanors, both carrying potential jail time. Vanessa's attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal. Community service, no jail time, a sealed record. He argued that Vanessa was under extreme stress and had no prior criminal history. The DA was not interested. The case had become national news. Millions of people had watched the video. The pressure to prosecute fully was enormous, not because of politics, but because the evidence was undeniable. There was no ambiguity. No, he said, she said. There was a camera. 3 cameras, and they captured everything. The trial lasted days. The prosecution played the video on a large screen in the courtroom. They played it multiple times, once at normal speed, once slowed down, once with audio enhanced so the jury could hear every word Vanessa whispered to Officer Walsh. Every lie, every fabrication, every calculated attempt to weaponize fear against a man who had done nothing but exist in his own space. Vanessa took the stand. Her attorney had coached her well. She cried. She trembled. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue and told the jury she did not see color and that she was just trying to do her job. The prosecution asked one question on cross-examination. Ms. Caldwell, if the man who boarded that aircraft had been white, wearing the same hoodie, same jeans, same sneakers, would you have asked him for identification? Vanessa opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I would have treated anyone the same way. The prosecutor nodded, then played a clip from earlier in the footage. The white catering driver walking onto the same aircraft. No questions asked. No ID requested. Not even a second glance from Vanessa. The jury watched in silence. Vanessa's attorney closed his eyes. Verdict: guilty. Both counts. The judge delivered the sentence without fanfare. Probation, hours of community service, mandatory bias rehabilitation program, a permanent criminal record, and a lifetime ban from working in the aviation industry. Vanessa stood in the courtroom with her hands clasped in front of her. She did not cry this time. She just stared at the floor like it might open up and swallow her whole. It did not. But the civil case was still coming. Elias filed a lawsuit against both Vanessa Caldwell and Horizon Charter Services. Racial discrimination, assault, emotional distress, negligent hiring and supervision. Horizon's lawyers took one look at the footage, one look at the prior complaints they had buried, and one look at the public sentiment, and they settled out of court. Millions of dollars. Elias took every penny of that settlement and donated it, all of it, to HBCU scholarship funds, to civil rights legal defense organizations, to a mentorship program for young Black entrepreneurs in aviation. At the press conference announcing the donation, Elias stood behind a podium in a simple navy suit. No hoodie this time. His cheek had healed. His voice was steady. This money did not come from my pocket. It came from bigotry. I am sending it where it will do the most good, into the futures of young people who will build a better world than the one I walked through that day. The room erupted in applause. Camera flashes lit up his face like lightning. And one final note: Officer Kevin Walsh. An internal affairs review found that Walsh had acted on Vanessa's false report without performing basic due diligence. He did not check the aircraft registration. He did not call the lounge. He did not ask a single follow-up question before moving to detain the owner of the plane. He received a formal reprimand, mandatory de-escalation training, mandatory bias awareness certification, a note in his permanent file. But Walsh did something his department did not require. He sat down and wrote a personal letter of apology to Elias Thornton. 2 pages, handwritten. He acknowledged what he had done, what he had failed to do, and what he planned to change. Elias read the letter at his kitchen table. He folded it carefully, and he accepted the apology. Because accountability, real accountability, was all he had ever asked for. So where are they now? Elias Thornton went back to work the following week. Same hoodie, same jeans, same quiet confidence that had carried him through years of boardrooms, tarmacs, and people who looked at his skin before they looked at his credentials. But something had changed. Not in him, in the world around him. The incident on the Gulf Stream became a turning point, not just for Elias, but for an entire industry that had looked the other way for far too long. Within months, Elias established the Thornton Foundation. Its mission was simple: open doors in aviation for people of color, scholarships for flight school, mentorship programs pairing young Black entrepreneurs with executives in aerospace, grants for minority-owned aviation startups. The foundation's first class had students. Before long, that number grew. Elias was invited to testify before a congressional subcommittee on racial profiling in private aviation and travel. He sat behind a microphone in a wood-paneled hearing room in Washington, D.C., and told his story to a row of senators. He did not raise his voice. He did not pound the table. He spoke the same way he had spoken to Vanessa on that plane. Calm, measured, and impossible to ignore. "I was slapped on my own aircraft," he said. "But I had cameras. I had lawyers. I had resources. What happens to the man who does not?" The room was silent. That question, "What happens to the man who does not?" became the foundation's unofficial motto. It was printed on T-shirts, painted on murals, quoted in editorials. It became a rallying cry for people who understood that Elias's story ended in justice, but that most stories like his do not. Marcus Riley was promoted to president of Pinnacle Aero's newly created charter division. The division was built with one guiding principle: every client, regardless of what they look like, will be treated with dignity from the moment they arrive. No exceptions, no excuses. Marcus kept a framed screenshot of Vanessa's termination email on his office wall. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Horizon Charter Services survived, barely, after losing millions in contracts, a complete leadership overhaul, and months of brutal public scrutiny. The company restructured under new management. They implemented the most aggressive diversity and accountability program in the private aviation industry. It did not erase what happened, but it was a start. And Vanessa Caldwell? She completed her probation. She completed her hours of community service. She completed the court-mandated bias rehabilitation program. Her aviation career was over. Permanently. The lifetime industry ban made sure of that. Public records show she relocated out of state, changed her phone number, deleted all social media. No further public incidents were reported. Some people said she got what she deserved. Some people said the punishment was too harsh. But the footage did not lie. The cameras did not have an opinion. They just showed what happened. And what happened was a woman who saw a black man on a private jet and decided before he spoke a single word that he did not belong there. She did not ask questions. She did not listen to answers. She did not look at the evidence. She looked at his skin, and she made her choice. That choice cost her everything. All right? Listen. Yeah, the story. That part is made up. But that feeling, like people already judging you before you even say anything? Yeah, that is real. That happens every day. And I am not going to lie. That part? Yeah, that kind of hurts. So forget all that. Real question is, when you see that happen, what do you do? Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before you answer. What would you have done in Elias's seat? Would you have stayed that calm? Would you have kept your composure while someone laughed in your face, questioned your identity, lied to the police, and then slapped you, all on your own property? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if this story made you feel something, anger, frustration, hope, anything at all, then do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Because justice does not always come in moments, but it should always come.